All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Mysteries Unlimited. Tonight we have a really big show. We got a lot of stuff to cover and get into. Uh, Let me say this, depending on where you're listening at, if you're listening to a replay of this, you may or may not have images on your screen. If you're listening to just the audio version of this, you will not have uh, pictures on your screen, but you can always come to YouTube and watch it there and see the images. What I'll do now, I will go ahead and bring in our co-host Leo because we really need to get the show rolling. We got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. If I can get everything to work, let's see here. There's Leo.
We got a big old bucket of slop tonight, don't we?
Oh man, we're going to make people mad. We're going to make people happy, and I got to the point where I don't even care.
Welcome to my world, buddy.
Clowns, just clowns. Anyways, what we're going to do tonight, before we actually get into our topics, there's a couple of news things that's breaking kind of news that I want to talk about. Just briefly, we won't spend a whole lot of time on either one of these because...
Or we won't mean to.
We don't mean to, that's for sure. Let's turn your mic up just a little bit, Leo. Okay. All right. The first thing we want to talk about is that we didn't really schedule a whole lot about is the Georgia guidestones. Some of you may know or may not know the guidestones. They were placed, excuse me, in Georgia in 1980. They've been there ever since until recently. Somebody bombed them and blew part of it up, and they tore it down. There's some controversy around the stones because the people who came forth and built these stones were a small group of people who used a fake name, basically, to get these built and put on the property. And some people claim it's somewhat satanic. But the claim is also that it's just in case a catastrophe happened in the United States or in the world, that it is instructions on how to build back society. Excuse me. But here's what some of the guidestones say, if you can read any of that. One of the main things was to keep humanity under 500 billion people, which is population control. Of course, I don't know. I've not read all the stones or read all about them. I don't know how they're supposed to maintain this. What do you do when you get over? Did you kill the folks or what? But anyways, they were blew up, and one of them was totally destroyed. So it weakened the rest of them, and they just went ahead and tore them down, which was fine. If you want to read more about it or see the video, it's on YouTube and on various news places. And you can actually go on Wikipedia and read about how it was commissioned and how they claim to be a Christian group, but they used a fake name and pseudonym name and all that kind of stuff to get these built. So that's the first little news thing. Leo, would you like to comment on that at all?
Not really. I mean, if the ones that were left standing, I mean, who knows who bombed it or why. It definitely had its detractors, people that were not happy with it being there in the first place. So,
true.
But I mean, it's down. So, what do you do?
Yeah, that's well. They said it for safety reasons they tore the rest of it down, which
well, yeah, if with that one missing, it probably wasn't safe. So.
I never did understand really the main purpose of it myself.
Bizarre way the way they started and were built and all that. Very, very bizarre for something that's.
Well, my
innocent.
thought was this: if we have some kind of apocalyptic event, there's probably not going to be nobody left to read the stones. The stones are not going to stand a nuclear blast or whatever. And so nobody's going to go, hey, let's go run to the stones and read how to do this. it's just not going to happen. So I thought it was just kind of a waste, really. But they are no more.
So that's that.
Yep, that's the end of those for now. But one more thing I would like to comment about this really is that some people are outraged that they bombed it and blew it up. But these same people were cheering when they was tearing down statues and blowing up statues and defacing statues and moving them and hiding them and all that kind of stuff. The very same people were cheering for all that. So, you can't have it both ways, man. Or you shouldn't have it both ways.
Yeah, it's right now. Yeah, you can have it both ways, and that's the problem.
And the thing was, for me, the monuments that they removed, a lot of Confederate monuments and things like that, they were historic. This is not historic. This is just something that people did.
This is just a bizarre thing that was there.
Yeah, just weird. To me, it's kind of like I'm like you. It's kind of bizarre and weird. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's the end of that. We don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that. This next subject, if I can find it, my little mouse roller don't want to work too good sometimes. This next thing is it broke last night, uh, and it was ridiculous to start with. Uh, I was probably, if I wasn't the very first person, I was very close to the very first person to uh, say what this was and that it was a hoax. And of course, I got blowback from it, but I'm going to show it to you, and y'all can like it or lump it or whatever. It don't really matter at this point. First of all, let me say, Coyote Peterson. I have no idea who he was. I'd never heard his name until last night. People were telling me how famous he is and how he's got a big show and he's real credible. And I've never heard of him. I don't watch much TV. I don't really watch much YouTube stuff. And he's talking about just what an awesome dude he was and how great he was and what a big popular icon he was. Well, to me, he's a piece of garbage. But that's just my thoughts on him. He's a clown, and I don't really know him. But after seeing this mess he got everybody worked up over last night, it's just garbage. He supposedly found this skull and smuggled it back into the United States and just a whole bunch of hogwashy stuff. And the skull, most of the Bigfoot world and the Bigfoot experts out there was jumping all over it. How it was a proof, finally proof of Bigfoot, a skull of Bigfoot. No, it's a gorilla, and it's actually a male gorilla. Male and female gorilla skull is shaped quite differently. And the thing is, this is not even a real gorilla skull, I do not believe. It's found in British Columbia, which is not a habitat for gorillas that I'm aware of. And of course, to me, it looks like it's a stage photograph thing, and maybe he's using it just to get views or whatever. One thing I think is cool to look at, he's supposed to be digging this out in the mud. Look at those pants. A drop of mud on them. So he must be really good at digging it out. But anyways, this is not a Bigfoot skull. It is a replica prop of a gorilla skull, is what it is. And you can see this is the fake. Now, I didn't make this; somebody else did this little picture. But you can see that it is consistent with the fake replica that you can buy. And so, once again, you can see same markings like the one you can buy at several places. I've seen some of them for like $300 or whatever. What gave it away for me, other than the whole shape of it, is that if you look, you see this gap here. This is where the bottom tooth, because they're larger like fangs, it gives it room to go up in there, and this is the bottom fang that goes down. Typical gorilla, male gorilla. And there it is. You can actually see the little gap there. And all of these Bigfoot experts and pros and these cats jumped all over this, and man, they was just so excited. And you try to tell them, nah, man, don't get so excited. It's not really what you think it is. And of course, me being just an old dumb hillbilly, I don't know anything. They won't take my word for it. But You don't have to be a primatologist, a zoologist, or some kind of scientist to see that this is a gorilla skull, most likely just a fake gorilla skull at that. Uh, would you like to comment on this, Leo? I know you're probably chomping at the bit a little bit on that.
Well, I'm like you though. I've never heard of this dude. I know nothing about him. So is he like a TV guy? Because I don't watch any Bigfoot. I don't. I stream
That's what
shows
they
and stuff
told
like
me. He had
that.
some
But
kind of big TV show or something. I don't know. I never heard of
okay,
it.
if it's a Bigfoot TV show, I wouldn't know anyway. But yeah, I'd never heard of the guy. But what's ironic to me is how you can have a reasonably shy person joins your group and then finally gets comfortable enough to share a story, and it's just of their sighting, and it's just a quick they get a quick glimpse of it, and basically just a benign story, not making any outrageous claims or anything, and people will grill them like the FBI. Some dude comes along and says, I got Bigfoot skull here, and all of these people that do the grilling and like to act like they know what the hell they're talking about. See, I told you I'd keep the cussing just down to the
That's
minimum,
I
but
understand.
they act like they know what they're talking about, and they're followed by tens of thousands of people. All
Mhm.
jumped on this. I don't I don't even know what more to say than
Well,
that.
let me just
Look at the
clarify one
morons
thing.
these people are following.
Let me clarify one thing. This Coyote Peterson, ever who that is, I've never heard of him. Seems like a fake name to me. Anyways, he never did claim it was a Bigfoot skull. Of
He
course,
didn't need to. Everybody else did.
everybody, that's right. He just said it wasn't a bear and it was a primate, and he smuggled it through the airport and all that kind of stuff. And man, if you smuggled something from another country through the airport, you're not going to get on Facebook and tell about it. Not within a few days later or a few months later. You're going to maybe 20 years later you might tell about it, but you're not going to do that, man. It's just totally ridiculous. The Bigfoot community sometimes is full of nothing but clowns. They're total clowns. They don't know anything about wildlife, nature, Bigfoot, critical thinking, or anything. No logic at all. And it just sometimes it's so frustrating for me. I could eat a shotgun blast to the face because nobody will listen. Some dude, I mean, they've made somebody that stands and reads fake emails famous. They've made him famous. That somebody just stands and reads fake emails or makes up fake stories. Man, get behind people who know what they're talking about and have been out in the field, and not some joker that's just goofing around and don't know nothing. They're stupid. Just to be honest, I'm going on a rant too. They're just stupid. They play off that they're big, smart outdoorsmen and stuff like that. They don't know anything about the outdoors because they're not out there. They don't go out and research. They don't go out and do anything, maybe camp and fish a little bit. They don't know anything about wildlife and nature. Would you like to continue the rant or should I continue?
I'm enjoying yours, man, because it only happens like once every third or fourth show where you kind of pick up a little bit. But
Man, it just frustrates the life out of me. I've dedicated almost 30 years of doing this and learning new things, and I'm still learning new things. And then you get some fly by night joker, don't know his butt from a hole in the ground, comes out and says, "Oh, I'm a big outdoorsman, Bigfoot guy," and he's at every conference, he's everywhere, and he don't know anything. He's dumb as a rock. And people,
yeah, but
some people,
all you have to do to be, and I'm not knocking all conferences. There's some things I know that have gone on at conferences that would curl your hair. But anyway, I'm not knocking the people that do the conferences and stuff. But really, what do you need to be invited to speak at a conference? Footprints and a story. That's the qualifications for speaking at a conference. So it just really it bothers me for the same reason it bothers you. These guys go out and stand in the woods, and maybe they do spend, maybe they hunt, maybe they fish, whatever, but they act like they're out there all the time and they know all these things because they talk the loudest and people keep pushing them. And then something like this comes along and you just want to say, see, I told you these guys that are running the show are idiots and they don't know anything.
They don't know
They
anything.
just like to talk like they do.
Yeah.
But they don't want to listen until something like this comes along. And now 2 days from now, you'll see the exact same people saying, I knew what it was. I knew it was a Girl Scout.
Oh yeah, it's already happened. I've seen it. Oh yeah,
Yeah, well,
and a lot of it was the pictures and stuff that I put up, the exact words. They're taking it, that's fine. I don't care as long as the truth gets out there. And I don't mean to get so frustrated, but man, this kind of stuff it just kills the community and it kills research efforts, the legitimate research effort. It just kills it.
what goes on with this is it's just like when Dyer had had Hank there, the dead body.
Yeah.
People knew Rick. People knew what Rick was about. It wasn't a surprise with Rick. But again, people flocked right to him.
Mm-hmm.
And they would go off and they'd say, well, it's Rick Dyer. I don't believe that. You're not missing a show. You're associating with him like he's your pal. So, they're trying to play both sides of the whole thing. But the more ridiculous it is, the more they flock to it and show that they don't know squat, because they talk loud and they get their picture taken in the woods a few times a year and they speak at a conference.
Photo ops.
Yeah, and that's all it is. And like I said, they speak the loudest, so they get the push and they know nothing.
This guy here, Coyote dude, he has used this as publicity, and he may have been doing it. I'm sure he'll probably come clean at some point about it, but he never does claim it's a Bigfoot skull or anything like that. But he does claim it's a primate, but we know it's a hoax. I mean, we know it's something that has been purchased and placed in the mud and all that kind of stuff. So he's doing it to, I guess, get views on. I guess he's got a YouTube channel or whatever, get followers, get himself talked about or whatever. I don't mean maybe to give him such a hard time. I don't know much. I don't know nothing about the guy really. I seen one video where he was letting a bee sting him or something stupid like that. But man, it's just frustrating. If you put any serious effort out in the woods and time out in the woods, and then you see clowns come along and people just act like they're so so great, and they're not. They're just fooling you. But anyways, I think we spent enough time on Mr. Coyote Peterson and his fake skull.
Well, another thing that I saw today, though, was Meldrum is, whether you agree with everything, some things, or whatever, generally, Meldrum is a very well-respected man.
Correct.
So when he posted, which was shortly after I saw yours, but when he posted, what this was, normally the people that praise him like he's, almighty, were going completely against what he was saying.
Of course.
Well, he would kind of know. It's, a little bit down his alley.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just a layman on this when it comes to crypto, not crypto, the zoology and things like that. But man, I can see that right off. That was a gorilla skull. Come on, you don't have to have a big degree hanging on the wall.
Well, no, but the thing is, he does, and
Right.
they wanted it so bad, and
Right.
that's part of the problem. They want it.
I agree.
They
with
want something big like this so bad that they're going to buy it hook, line, and sinker, and they did.
I agree.
And they fought for it, and there's nothing there to fight for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I seen where someone talking about that. Opinions were like buttholes, and yeah, they are. But sometimes the butthole's right.
Well, everybody is entitled to their opinion, but when you grab a hold of this story and you throw it out that a Bigfoot skull has been found, and that's what some people did.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah,
It's very annoying.
buttholes.
Yeah, and I get fired up sometime about things, and because it's frustrating. If you have any passion about what you do, uh, stupid stuff like this, you'll find frustrating, and people supporting uh, people who really don't know what they're doing, you'll find that frustrating as well. I do sometimes. It builds up on me. Plus, I've had a lot going on. You know a little bit about it, but I won't get into that. Anywho, now we can get into our actual show. Sometimes breaking news changes things or whatever. Okay, let's see what we got now. I think our first little thing, which we're not going to spend much time on, hopefully, if I can get my stupid thing to work. We're going to talk about this photo. It come out about, I don't know, probably a month ago now. We call it Mudfoot. And it was another example of the Bigfoot community grabbing a hold of something and saying it was a Bigfoot. Uh,
Was a sure thing.
you know it. There we go. Let's see. And the main picture was this one over here, which you can see it's a humanoid figure. And once again, the Bigfoot community and people overreacted to this, and uh, of course, they thought it was a Bigfoot and all that kind of stuff. Let me see. Let's see what else we got here, picture-wise. There's a long shot of it. A bunch of the same groups, the same Bigfoot experts uh, shared this as a real Bigfoot, and there you can read a little bit of story about it. And like I say, people overreacted to it, and you got to have some questions about it. You can't just jump hook, line, and sinker. Well, they finally came clean, and they said it was their Uncle Gerald. He had busted his butt in the mud hole while they were winching out a stuck tractor. So it was actually just a person that had fell in the mud. Uh, and for those who are very observant, you can actually see the winch cable right there. See the winch cable running along the ground. So Mudfoot was just old buddy Gerald who took a fall.
Honestly, I don't. I get like the last story. I get how something big like that blows up. But honestly, the first thing I thought when I saw this was dude went mudding, ended up stuck, and that was just him soaked to the bone and full of mud getting out of the water. How do you turn that into Bigfoot? I mean,
Well, and
it's so
Louisiana is a
simple.
swampy place. Parts of Louisiana are pretty swampy. So
But I mean,
I'm
you can see right there if a person, and that's they had to get. They were towing. Well, what was it? A tractor out of there?
a tractor. Yeah, tractor was stuck. So
Now, see, I figured someone went mudding, for fun,
yeah,
and got stuck, and buddy was just getting out and getting out of the water. But
yeah,
I don't look at that and see anything at all that would indicate anything more than a dude soaked in mud.
yeah. Old Gerald's famous now. Gerald the Big. But I hope you guys can see that uh, cord there, that steel cable, the winch cable on the ground.
But again, a lot of the ones that latched onto it, they're not going to. They won't let it go.
It's the
They'll,
same. It's usually the same groups, Bigfoot groups, the same Bigfoot
well, they'll
research.
call the guy that fessed up to it and said what it was. They'll call him a liar and say that
Right.
he's got nothing to do with it. He's just a troll and all that.
Yeah.
Like, man, that's a guy getting out of the mud. Period. How he got there, that's not even important. Look at
I
it, and
can
it's a guy
understand
getting out
the
of the
joke.
mud.
And for the people who posted it, I can understand the joke. I can understand they was just making fun of old Gerald fell in the
Yeah.
mud. I mean, I can understand that part. And then, of course, the Bigfoot community goes wild and says it's the Bigfoot, and it was
But
on all
why?
kinds
It
of
literally
posts.
looks like a man kind of getting out of the mud. Why is that a Bigfoot? That's not
And why does no one see the cable, the
because they
winch
don't
cable?
want to. And you're going to get cussed out, at least in private messages tonight, within the next 10 minutes for pointing that cable out.
Oh, I probably will. That's okay though. It's not like I have a huge following, anyways. You know, you share some real Bigfoot evidence, you get 3.5 likes. You share something that's totally bull, and it goes viral.
You know what really offends me, and is when I get people, can you send me more pictures of Carl? Can you send me more pictures of this? Can I see more video? I know you don't want to share any video, but can I see some more video? Can I see more pictures and all this and that? And it happens constantly. And then we put a thing up for the show, crickets.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I know.
no, I'm not handing all this stuff over to you. I mean, if it depends on who it is, but I mean, this
Right.
person I know or whatever. But they do that because they want to be spoon-fed the big deal stuff, the stuff that they look at as a big deal. They don't want to hear about what it takes to get to that big deal. And that's the thing. They want to skip that part. They just want to be spoon-fed the goods, and that's why they fall for stupid stuff like this.
Come on, it's your turn to go on a rant. I done blew up once. I blew up at the first. Now you blow up some.
Well, honestly, if I'm gonna, I have never taken it easy on the Bigfoot community, and I'm not gonna now. But man, you got to admit they ask for it sometimes.
Oh,
because this dumb stuff like this comes along, and it's like idiot flies to one of those zappers every time. And you know what they keep doing? They keep going flying toward it every time somebody comes out with a absolutely ridiculous, story like this: a skull, a body, and all of this. They do it to themselves over and over and over again. So it's kind of hard to have pity. But yeah, it makes me mad, because people that are actually going out and trying to get, a once in a lifetime thing and busting their arse to do it.
You're kidding.
It's irritating, extremely irritating.
At times, it really irritates me because I try to get traction myself on something that's potentially significant, something that's real, something that's tangible. I try to get traction on that, and you can't do it because there's always some kind of, which I understand this year was just kind of a jokey thing that people took seriously, but usually if it wasn't this, it would be something else. Mark Andrews, I hate keep bringing up Mark Andrews stuff because people think I hate him or something. I don't even know him, but I know his stuff is not real. People will share the Mark Andrews photo a gazillion times, and or even worse, they'll show just pictures of foliage, light and shadow, and they'll claim there's 3 Bigfoot, one's holding a baby, one of them's juggling, one of them's smoking a cigarette. And people will go, "Oh, that's awesome, great, awesome, great catch," and it's just so frustrating, man. I just don't. Hey, there's no wonder that people keep some of their main research private, and don't share stories, because if you got a real story, nobody cares. For the most part, they don't, anyways.
Got a question there from Larry in the chat.
What was the question?
I found a huge. What is it?
I
found. He found a big poop.
A big poopy.
I found a huge crap log up on Mount St. Helens a few years back. Too big for bear. You gents ever find similar?
Well, I found a few things, but go ahead, Leo.
Yes, but not what I would make a definite call on.
Well,
it looked an awful lot like, human shape and everything like that, just really, really big. But, it wasn't in an area, it was in the woods, but it wasn't in an area that I know that humans don't go in. So,
Well, first of all, where he's talking about Mount St. Helens is an excellent place, and it has a history. Stories of bodies being found after the eruption and all that. So the potential of finding a big pile of poopy is good in that area that could possibly belong to Bigfoot. Now, I found some big, huge piles that I thought were probably too large for bears. I actually have a video of it, but I don't have it ready, of course. Uh, and it was, I can't remember if it was in early spring or maybe summer. Anyways, it'd been eating a lot of berries. And I'm sure Bigfoot eats a lot of berries amongst other things. So it would be really hard to say for sure if you found a big pile of poop what it would be. Potentially could be a bear, potentially could be a Bigfoot. That's just one thing it's hard to determine. And like we talked, I think the last show, uh, there is some theories that says Bigfoot, on some occasions at least, buries its poop. And Leo had some insight about that on the last week. I think it was last week's show. So that could be a reason why we don't find poop as often. And plus, you got to think like here where I'm at, we've been like in the upper 80s and 90s temperature wise for weeks, and humidity factor's been 100% or more. So it decomposes pretty fast too. And of course, with the hot temperature, you get more bugs and things like that that would eat it and get rid of it. And then when you get a big rainstorm, like we did about an hour or so ago, that of course makes it go away as well. But potentially, yeah, like I say, you could have possibly found a pile of poop near Mount St. Helens. Okay, are we done with Mudfoot? I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on Mudfoot because I know it's a little bit older now, but it is a good example of how the Bigfoot community overreacts uh, to photographs, just like the skull thing that's going around terribly again, new. They overreact, and you got certain people in the Bigfoot community that push it. And I don't know. I guess they do it for clicks, or my thing is that they just don't know that they're clowns. That's kind of my opinion about it. They put forth to being a big smart researcher, but they don't know much, and they won't let you help them learn much.
And then there are those that do look at it, they do know, and then they think, could I push this as a Bigfoot post? Could I push this as a Bigfoot thing on YouTube? They know better. I mean, idiot buddy there that stole my picture there since for the last 5 years.
Oh, the Colorado Bigfoot.
Colorado Bigfoot. What's his name? Abel, something Abel.
Yeah, Markabell, is that it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know him either.
Goes out and takes a black winter jacket with a hood on it, throws it on the ground, takes a picture of it. It blows it up to just a ridiculous amount of blur and says, "Oh, look, it's one playing dead." Yeah, that's likely. We can't see them 99% of the time, so they're going to lay in front of us and play dead. And this idiot has thousands and thousands of followers, and I do know a ton of people that follow him for a good laugh, but he's got people there. Like the first time he ripped off that picture, a lot of people that knew me jumped in and said, "What are you doing taking credit for that picture? You cut it off right at the copyright, and you got all these people congratulating you on this great picture, and you're not telling them it's not yours." And anybody who tried to tell him that it was mine, he said they didn't know me, they didn't know anything about it, and they didn't know what they were talking about, and he would delete all of their comments. Sure. But yet this guy, the following this guy has, will blow your mind. So
that's the frustrating part, Leo. That's what we were talking about a while ago. That is the frustrating part for people who are honest, who try to be as honest as you know how. You got some guy who is a P.T. Barnum, type guy that I mean, people just flock to him. I know I'm not a handsome guy, and I'm not charismatic or anything like that, but I think the truth should prevail over any of that stuff.
Should, but I mean, like I said, they want to be spoon fed the big things, the earth shattering things. How people attempt to get to those things. Oh well, that's boring stuff. We don't want to hear about what you have to do to get there. We want to see what's there.
Yeah.
And usually what's there isn't real. So,
Well, I think I made a statement a little while back about that about 90% of everything you see in the Bigfoot community is a hoax or misidentification or just nothing. And I still think that's about right.
you know, in 2012 to 2013 or so, I would have said about 60%. But yeah, it's that bad. I
You
mean, the
know,
things
I
that
noticed
come
too.
out and
You talking about 2013? There was in 2013 there was a lot of Bigfoot activity that was legit.
Mhm.
That
But
but it's went
yeah,
down.
but what was it called? I mean, there was there were decent videos, and we had a big debate about this on, I think it was Bigfoot Evidence at the time. Every single thing that came on there, fake, dude in a suit, every single thing. So I said, I want to ask you guys a very easy question. If every single thing that comes out and lands on here is fake, what is it that you believe in exactly? But because I mean, there was things that were getting tossed out that were definitely at least worth a second look back
Right.
then, and that's why I said back then it was about 60-40 for me, and now it's to the point that the only everything that comes out that's anything of any, a big story, it's fake.
Yeah, just about
So
every. I'll say close to 90%,
yeah,
and it's uh, it's stealing to me. It's robbing people. If I put up something that I know is fake, and I do it to get clicks or videos or whatever, it's just robbing people, man. And I can't do that. I just don't want. I won't do that. Joking around or something like that's different, but to do stupid hoaxes and fake stories. And I think there's several people. I won't name no names because I like some of these people. I think their blog, website, whatever. I think they make up stories. They're good stories. They pass them off as real, uh, and maybe there is a touch of truth in them. But I think some of their stories are made up.
they have been for years.
What can you do? I don't know. I
And
just get
if the owner of that blog won't make up a story themselves, they'll get frequent commenters and stuff that are willing to
sure.
and post them on there. And I'm not. That's not my opinion. I've seen it happen.
Hmm. Well, of course, we can all be fooled. We can all uh, maybe not uh, be able to filter out a bad story or whatever. But we try. We don't blatantly put out stuff that we know is bad. That's like when the Rick Dyer thing finally came about. I was probably one of the first people to cover that story because I talked to Dyer on the phone when it first happened, when we was first just starting to lay the groundwork, and nobody really knew who was making the claim. And I was giving him the benefit of the doubt because he seemed sincere. But quick as I found out that his story was changing, I dropped it. I quit right there, and I went the opposite direction and started trying to debunk it and things like that. I'm willing to give a person the benefit of the doubt, but I find you being untruthful, and I find you hoaxing things, man. I'm not going to support your lie. I'm not going to do it.
And I, like I said, I had that one on Twitter that was messaging me, and I thought, there's some decent stuff here. So I do the same thing. I'll listen to anybody's story. I'm glad that people want to tell me stories, but and share things with me, and I'm glad about that. But when I when it gets to a point that I have to, when they ask me what I think, and I have to come out and say I think, Unfortunately, I think you did it. I think you did it. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you asked me what I thought. I'm giving you my honest opinion. I think you did it. And it sucks that you have to do that.
And I do want to clarify one thing. As far as making up stories about Bigfoot, that's great. I mean, but don't pass them off as legitimate. Say, it's a fictional story that I made up about Bigfoot and how he, stole chickens out of her backyard one time, and we end up becoming friends or something. I'm not against literature or films or anything like that. Even a podcast that make up stories that are entertaining. But don't pass them off as real. Say, hey, it's a fictional story, but it's kind of cool. I like fictional stories. But
well, that's the thing is I after I was done the first book, I tried to write fiction because what I was going to do was base it on the first chapter would be my first sighting in '97. But instead of what really happened, I was trying to go with a story that I found a way or found some tracks to follow him and, find out that he had other ones up there. And I couldn't get any further than that. It was something and the only reason why I could get that far was because it was something that I thought about ever since it happened was what if things didn't turn out the way they did that day, and what if I did go right back down the next day and try to track them down. So if you're talented enough to come up with to write fictional writing that good, because I couldn't do it at all, then say it's fiction and write it up, and people will like it. So don't pass it off as real. That's just a crappy thing to do. Don't just say it's fiction, and people are going to enjoy it.
Speaking of that, I do have a fictional story that I've roughed out. I call it Charlie. Is the name of the book. Eventually, I'll get it out, and it's about this Bigfoot researcher who has a kind of a relationship with a young Bigfoot. I wrote it out. I really like the story, and what I really would like to do is finish it, and then I would also like to tell it from the Bigfoot's point of view, which would be kind of make it 2 books. But I think it would be kind of interesting. But finding the time to do that is that's the problem.
I just no, I think that would be extremely interesting. But man, I sat here with that laptop on my lap, and I just, for all the things that people have actually said about me in that, when I actually sat down and tried to come up with fiction, I couldn't. So back in the day when I said they're giving me far too much credit, they really were. I could not come up with a fictional Bigfoot story.
Sometimes mine hits in spurts. Sometimes I'm really creative. Most of the time I'm bogged down with work or something like that, and I'm just slugging on through the day.
Well, I mean, I knew where I wanted to go with it, but that's as far. I didn't know where I wanted to go with it. I knew how I was going to start it because, like I said, it had been something I had thought about before. Like if things had, didn't work out that day the way they did, and all of that. But that's where I froze. I'm like, I can't write fiction.
Well, speaking of which, it's funny that you mentioned it. I've got something I want to share. I got a video I want to share, and here it comes. If I can get it to work, come on, work, baby. Maybe. Oh, here we go.
From Zombie Media Publishing comes the amazing true story of a Sasquatch investigator. The true story of how one researcher discovered a family of Sasquatch living in a remote area of the forest. Follow along as Leo Frank chronicles his journey from hopeful researcher to unbelievable and undeniable discovery. Read details that have never been told and could only be told by Leo himself. Filled with photos, trials, hardships, failures, and ultimately, success. Sasquatch Family Ties is wowing audience and receiving 5-star reviews. Stephen Kohler writes, Leo Frank's Sasquatch Family Ties is clear and convincing, simply a joy to read. M. Donald says, captivating, a generous and brave offering. You are sure to enjoy Leo Frank's Sasquatch Family Ties. Make sure to pick up your copy today. Now available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and ebook form. Sasquatch Family Ties is proudly published by Zombie Media Publishing.
And that was narrated by Jason Morris.
I knew that was Jason. When did this happen?
I done a little promo for that. Gosh, I don't know. It's been probably over a year ago.
With Jason doing the narrating, though?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did several little narrations for us like that. He had all that equipment from where they did karaoke. Done the karaoke thing, and he had all the equipment, and he did it for us. Yeah, he does a good job too.
Yeah, he does.
But when he's down here, when he come down here to visit, they said, "Buddy, you talk funny." He's got that northern twang.
Well, the wife's my ex-wife is from Kentucky, and when I went down, I was fascinated with the accent because I've always loved the accent. Any Southern accent, like anywhere from Kentucky South, I love the accent. So does Dad. But they wanted me to keep talking, and they were sitting there mesmerized, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't see where we're talking that much different, because I married hillbillies from down there, and I'm a hillbilly from up here, and there are times when our words do sound a lot alike, but they were just fascinated by the way I talked, and they were telling me about a Jamaican guy that they had seen on TV, and again, completely mesmerized by this Jamaican guy. And I'm like, I don't think I'm as mesmerized. I'm a Canadian guy from Nova Scotia, not as mesmerizing as a Jamaican with the whole Jamaican accent and all that. Even us Canadians will get mesmerized by that. But
yeah,
well, trying to figure out what they're saying. And they've got the rhythm thing, like they're always in rhythm. So
also I would like to take just a second to thank Rebecca for monitoring our chat. She just goes by Becca, but I like calling her Rebecca. It's a Bible name. So we thank Rebecca for taking care of our chat. She does a good job for us.
Yes, we do, and we thank her for taking
care of you.
That too. But and she helped me with my notes because with the story
Speaking of which, we've got one little story to get to before we get to that super good stuff.
Well, that super good stuff is going to be a little bit confused, but thank you, Wendy, very much.
Yeah, Wendy has been a good supporter of ours too, and we sure appreciate her. We appreciate people who support us and enjoy what we do. We put in a lot of effort in what we do. The physical part of it is rough on me. I'm getting older. I know I don't look it sometimes, but I'm getting older. Birthday coming up in a couple months. But it's harder now. It's harder to climb the mountains and jump the ditches and beat off the spider webs and the ticks and the snakes and all that stuff. It's getting harder. So
it's kind of funny that you said about the ditch, because there were last week Becca and I were looking for a day to get out because we were having a lot of rain, like on and off. And I have two hernias. I have a hernia in my abdomen, and I have one in my chest. So, I'm at the bottom of my esophagus. So, anyway, she was all ready to go and everything, and I had popped my hernia out the day before, And I literally said to her, I can't, because we have to go down through a ditch to get there.
Yeah.
That's getting pretty bad, man.
Yep, I agree with you. And the thing is, we've been doing this. I've been doing it close to 30 years, roughly 30 years, really hard the last 10, 12 years, really hard, because I know that I am getting older and I'm not going to be able to do this forever, unless I can get me some kind of wheeled vehicle that I can, just get off in areas and where it's level or something. But and Leo's been doing it for around 25 years, so we've seen a lot of stuff. And it leads us right into our next topic, which is Bigfoot population. Uh, I've seen everything from Bigfoot is about to go extinct to there's only just a handful of them left in the world to they're doing well. But most of these assessments were made by people who don't really do a lot of field research, if any. It's just guesses, I guess, is better than anything. And Leo and I have actually spent a lot of time out in the field, and I feel like we're well qualified to talk about what we have seen in the field that leads us to believe whether Bigfoot population is increasing or decreasing. And Leo, if you want to tell us about, because we have to talk about what we know in our area. Maybe my area is different from your area. Maybe you're seeing a decrease and I'm seeing an increase, or vice versa. So tell us about the Bigfoot population in your area. What do you think it's doing? You think it's doing well, doing poorly, or what?
Well, from what I've seen, it's certainly not hurting. Um, just I've seen several young ones several times, and I've also seen two babies, and so with this happening in this place, and this happening in this place, and this happening in another, in this area, there's certainly not, the population's not hurting, but how scattered they are from, in between, I have no idea. But as far as from what I've seen within the two families, plus the other one, the two on the mountain, I'm assuming the two, even though it was 23 years apart, I would assume to be that a matter of a few hundred feet downstream that they're probably related, or at least within the same group, if that's what that type does. I don't know, but it's hard for me to say outside of what I know myself.
Okay. Well, I will tackle it from my perspective. What I base mine, I've not had the pleasure of having as many visuals, nowhere near as many visuals as Leo has had, or captures for that matter. So I have to base mine on location, historical data from our area, and foot tracks. Uh, I can say that over the years that I really feel like the population here in my part of Kentucky is doing very, very well. And I think part of the reason why the population is increasing here is because we have less logging, less mining, and really just less activity now than we had, say, 30 years ago, which they were still here 30 years ago as well. And as far as tracks, I've found, I don't know, hundreds of tracks that I know were not human tracks, that I know were various sizes, talking about small ones all the way down to about the size of a big glider, all the way up to about a 22, 23-inch track. In fact, I have a small track here now that is not very big. I don't know if you can see that in my big old head. It's not very big. It's about maybe a 10-inch track. That I actually found a hair in that one too. I think that's the one. That is a track that's probably about 8 or 10 inches long. But in this same general area, I've found, like I said, the 22 inch, 13 inch, 16, 14. So the population seems to be increasing in my area. Now, will some areas see a decrease? I'm sure they will if there's encroachment with uh, society, concrete, tearing out trees, making a mall, strip mall, apartment complexes, things like that. That may affect their population because they have to move, or maybe they can't have their find their mate or whatever as easily. Uh, but in my area, Kentucky, I can say that the Bigfoot population is doing quite well. We do have a lot of forest in this area too that is basically uninhabited. A lot of national park type stuff, and a lot of even private land that nobody really goes on. I mean, you might occasionally get a hunter or somebody like me who goes ginsening or something like that, but they've got plenty of area to uh, to increase their population, and we have plenty of food sources, plenty of water sources. So there's really no reason for them to be decreasing. And I know some people want to paint a bleak picture that Bigfoot's about to go extinct, but I think it's probably the opposite. I think the numbers are actually increasing, and I think that might be why we're seeing even more sightings now than we were, years ago.
I wouldn't argue that. I mean, Larry just said that he mentioned that in the two groups he knows of, stable, and I would. That's probably the best that I would say that I know for sure is stable.
Very
I
good.
mean,
Very
they're
good.
doing fine. So,
Well, like I guess it was about 2 or maybe 3 years ago, we had a road crossing that we investigated that was just outside of our county, and I actually there's a YouTube video on it that we did, and I think it was a mother and an infant. What I think actually crossed the road, and the people were legitimate, good Christian type people. Actually, they were Christian. They are Christian people uh, that made a report. They didn't want really their name or anything like that used. When they weren't looking for attention. But we got into the area, and at the time we didn't know it. Maybe it was a mother with a small child, but there was a small stream there. And man, I was just, and it was pretty swampy in part of it, but it was too swampy where it wouldn't really travel because it was too soft. But we got up into where the creek was, and evidently the mother had put the infant down. I mean, we're talking tracks that were only, they're like a big ladder. It was just a little bitty thing, and I found several of them. But now the ground was really hard because, like I say, it was a little rocky stream. But that baby had stepped on like where the water had ran. It made like a little island of little pea gravel, and it stepped right in there. And me and Tony Pelosi is the one who done that research on that road crossing. But and that's an area too that there's some population. It's not there's a whole lot of mountain in behind that, but there's a little bit of population there, and it's a 4-lane highway with a medium in the middle. But it had crossed there just, if I remember correctly, it was like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening, just about before it got dark or something. But yeah, I think that was probably a mother and an infant. So I think they're doing well here in Kentucky. I don't think we're worried about them going extinct or anything.
well, I'll tell you, just in the time that I was down there, I if I had have written them down, and I really wish that if I had known things were going to turn out the way they did, I would have. But man, some of the wild cryptid stories that I heard from down there. So yeah, I don't think you're getting any worries about them disappearing from Kentucky. But the thing is here is if I look back at historical things, there's 3, maybe 4, and then after people found out that someone from here was actually keeping track of this, that's when people would message me and say, "Are you that same Nova Scotia Bigfoot guy?" Like, I'm the Nova Scotia Bigfoot guy. So anyway, I've gotten reports from places that I wouldn't have thought of, but when I do think of it in the placement, it makes perfect sense. because what a lot of people don't realize is the Appalachian Mountains actually start up here. It's the Appalachian Trail that starts in the United States. It's the Appalachian Mountains that start up here, and all of these tend to line right along, including mine, along the Appalachian Mountains. So people are now coming forward and telling me things from 30 years ago, because I'll tell you, trying to get people to talk about it around here, when I say they're conservative, I don't necessarily mean politically. I mean very conservative about what they tell other people about themselves. They keep their business to themselves, that kind of thing. They're conservative in that way, very private that way. So it's like pulling teeth trying to get people to say anything more than, well, I had something a little weird happen, but I don't know what it was. But when they do finally open up, it blew my mind how many there were around here, because a certain TV Bigfoot expert said there were none. Didn't give a reason, just, oh no, there's none there. And he said the same thing about Prince Edward Island.
Well, I heard a guy say that recently about Kentucky. It basically said that about Kentucky. Said there was only out in Washington, California, and it was like 4 or 5 states he named, all away from Kentucky, of course. That's the only place there were really any Bigfoot. But man, you don't know what you're talking about. And this is a very prominent person in the Bigfoot community. Well, just about 2 years ago? No, take it back. About a year and a half ago, me and Guy was out, and we filmed a trackway of what we would assume it was a father, mother, and at least one child, maybe another younger juvenile or something with them as well. I mean, like 4 sets of tracks. And we actually had a visual that day. And since then, I have been in that area and found other tracks. The picture I posted just a few days ago, the track we thought could be a female because of the way the heel was, that was from that same area where we had the sighting just a little over a year ago. I think, and that's, like I say, that's a place that's, you can't, people do hunt there a little bit, but where I was at, it's really far back, and there's 2 or 3 big hills to climb. So most likely people are not walking back there, and it's a gated place. So you're not supposed to have any kind of vehicles back there. So, and it wasn't a boot track. You could see no boot tread in it. So, but the Bigfoot in this area seem to be doing quite well.
And I would say the same. I would say the same here for the amount that I think are actually in the province. But I mean, this province, people don't realize just how much of it is forest, and it's all but untouched. In some places it is untouched.
Well, you're talking about the Appalachian Mountains. It runs all the way from where you're at all the way down into Georgia.
Yeah.
So it's a long way. And I'll see if I can get this track a little closer for you. There's not a whole lot of detail in this track, but the other track, I actually cached 2 of these smaller tracks. The other one actually had toe definition in it. And lucky me, when I was pulling it up out of the ground, it broke. So I have got it in there, and it's dried and cured and everything. I've not glued it back together, but I think I lost some of the toe definition because it broke up on me. These are not usually when people talk about tracks disappearing and just finding one track and things like that. And I do occasionally find just one track, but I found multiple trackways that had, one had over 30 in it, and this here had probably 8 or 10 at least, if not more. And I know a lot of people say, well, you just find one track, and it, Stephen posted a thing where I guess it was an owl or a bird that took a rabbit, and he said it, Bigfoot turned into a bird a little way. People kind of, he was joking, of course, but people kind of think that way because tracks disappear. But a Bigfoot's foot, the way it's made, if the ground has to be very, it has to be good for you to really see track definition and toe definition in a track. Because if it's hard at all, you really won't see the impression at all unless it's just soft mud or something like that. So I don't necessarily think they just disappear or turn into a bird or anything like that.
Well, I'll say this. I know, like, you get some. As far as the number of tracks, like for me, I'm on hard, dark soil a lot, and on top of that, just inches and inches of pine needle deadfall and stuff like that. So tracking for me in 2 areas really sucks, because I've got the moss that just bounces up and down. I can jump up and down on it, and all it does is turn white for a minute, then there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And then I've got the other area that the only time that I'm getting, even a semi decent track is if they're moving fast and they kind of kick a little bit of the pine needle and stuff like that back. But yeah, in your area, some of the tracks that you get that go on and on, it's really good soil for that, and it generally shows pretty good toe detail. I mean, you can, if you can't see 100% of the detail, you can see where that detail would be. So yeah, you got some good soil for tracking down there.
And what people don't realize, if it's a boot track, most boots are rounded in the front where the toes are, and the things that I find are square. Most of the time they're really square toed, and you don't see no boot tread in them. You don't see any kind of like fresh tire tracks where somebody's been back there. This last track I posted and found, there were several of those too, but there was no tracks leading in there other than mine, and there was no vehicle tracks of any kind, 4-wheeler or anything like that was fresh. So if it's not a person back there walking around, and it's definitely not a bear, what is it? It's only leaves really one thing it could be.
I've never seen any of your tracks show characteristics of boot, shoe, anything like that. Anything that you have said was a track, even if it lacks some toe detail in between, you could definitely see the outline of the toes. So yeah, I wish I had ground like that, because I want, before I am officially done with this, I want just one good cast. And people are like, well, if you have these ones around, how come you can't just get a good cast? Well, it's not that easy. It's horrible ground for tracking.
Well, like me, I put mine in a Ziploc bag, put it in my backpack, and I mean, I've got 2 or 3 pounds worth in my backpack, and I have to carry the stuff to mix it with. And usually I use my drinking water. I usually pack a couple of drinking waters with me, and if I have to, I'll use it to make the plaster. And then once you do pour it, you've got to wait. I'm bad to rush it and not wait long enough, and sometimes that's why I break cast. But man, you need to wait 45 minutes to an hour anyways. And it also depends on how moist the ground is. If the ground is really moist, it takes even longer. And we have left them overnight before and went back and got them, but I don't like doing that. I'd rather take them then, because who knows what the next day, you may not feel good the next day and not get to go. But yeah,
yeah, we're all old, Larry. It's a requirement to be here. You have to be old.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too, with finding all the variations of tracks that I found, I don't see where people get the idea that there is a decrease in population. I think we would see less tracks.
It's the horror story thing, man. It's the same as people would rather hear that a Sasquatch tried to chase somebody down and rip their face off. They would rather hear that than, a reasonably peaceful sighting where a person sees something, they know it's a Sasquatch. The Sasquatch goes on doing what they're doing. Person freaks out and something. But people would rather hear that one where the Bigfoot almost catches them, as ridiculous as that is, almost, and tries to rip their face off. They would rather hear that any day over the the peaceful ones. It's just the way the community works, man.
Jimmy Blayton is in the chat room. I gave him a copy of one of the paddy casts. I made him a paddy cast a few years, well, probably about a couple of years ago. I'm glad you still got it, Jim. And yeah, me and Jim used to research some together. And he don't research as much lately. He's not been feeling well. I seen where he wasn't feeling well on the internet on Facebook a few days ago. Hope you're feeling better, Jimmy, and thanks for tuning in tonight.
And I know my buddy, a real sweetheart that is a good friend to a lot of people. Teresa is, wow, she's had about as much luck with health and stuff as what we've had and people in our family have had over the last few years. She's lost people. She's going through some struggles. So definitely thoughts and prayers for her.
One thing too that I will mention, I know some of our people who pay for the private membership on YouTube are actually in the chat tonight. There are some new videos up in the members only section if you guys want to check those out. And for those who are not in the members only thing, there's 3 different levels to it. You get quite a bit of behind the scenes videos and pictures and things like that, and commentaries. It's not required or anything like that for you to sign up for that. We still do a lot of free content. It's just a little something extra for people who want it. And it gives us a more steady income off of it, which still is not a whole lot, but it helps with the gas and equipment and stuff like that. And we appreciate all those people who have memberships with us. And even those, and we appreciate those who just watch our videos and let the ad play, because of course, Google takes the majority of the ad revenue, but every little bit helps, and a tank of gas can go a long way for me.
A tank of gas?
Yeah.
When did you win the lottery there, pal?
I'll have to save up.
I've been hearing stories about these tanks of gas, but I apparently all my car will hold is a quarter tank.
Well, now we got a gas war going on a little bit here in our area. We've got 2 competing gas stations, and one of them was down to $3.94 a gallon, and the other was like $3.95 or $3.98 or something like that. So they've been battling. It started out at about $4.75 or something, and they battled all the way down to under $4 now. So just keep on going, boys.
Well, and it's down here a bit, but it's down by 20 cents, which people are jumping for joy about, but they don't realize, well, yeah, but you're still going to be paying $1.70, $1.80 a liter. That's nothing to be happy about. But that's what they do. They raise it so much that if they drop it a little, people get excited about it. They don't realize they're still getting screwed.
Well, I know I have to mow my grass pretty often, which not as much this year, and so I try to, when it goes down, I try to buy me a little, give me 2 or 3 gallons to mow my grass with, and that way I can get me 2 or 3 times to mow it. But we have come to where we need to get into our next segment, because this segment may run a little bit long, and it's okay if it does, because this is very interesting. I think people will really like this. Which with Mysteries Unlimited, we've been covering a lot of Bigfoot because people like Bigfoot, but we also cover everything from missing persons to serial killers to true crime stuff and Mothman and all that kind of stuff. So tonight we are going to talk about some serial killer stuff, but the thing is, there is some Bigfoot connections that we're going to talk about. Leo is going to go first on his subject. Let me see if I can pull up a little bit of the headline, Leo. And
you notice we never get to decide or flip a coin who goes first. He just says, "You're going to go first," and then yes, sir, I'll go first.
Yeah, well, I know you're just chomping at the bit to do it. So you got your notes ready, I hope. Right?
Well, they're here. The notes are ready, whether I am or not. And I dropped on the floor.
Just a little brief thing I will read before we get to that. And I will try not to give any of it away because I know you want to talk about it. And if I can add something in, I can, I will. What Leo is going to talk about is what is known as the Yosemite Killer. He was convicted of murders of 4 people in 1999. He is currently incarcerated. So we will let Leo kind of talk a little bit about that. I'm going to throw a graphic up on the screen, Leo. If you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about this guy here.
Well, he was his family was famous to begin with because his younger brother had been kidnapped and held for 7 years in the 70s. So and he it's extremely rare that a person after being kidnapped for 7 days even comes home, but 7 years the kid comes home. He gets a lot of accolades and things like that, and older brother kind of feels a little left out, but seems a little bitter that that little brother was even back. So but that's where you may recognize the last name of Stainer. And what happened there was you had something wonderful like that happen with his younger brother coming home. He goes out in 1999 and decides that he's going to start killing people. So the biggest thing for me with this one, aside from the whole Bigfoot thing, was, can you imagine being that family, that roller coaster?
Well, the thing I think I read about it was that the little brother who had been abducted or whatever, they actually made a movie or something about his ordeal. And then the older brother, I guess it's the older brother, he was kind of that kind of miffed him, I guess, a little bit.
A lot of the attention did.
But I read that little bit about it.
Well, see, they made a movie, and I think there's a newer series on. I think it's on the one. It's on one of the streaming things that you guys get that we don't get here in Canada. Hulu, I think. It's a mini series, but that's more or less about the younger brother that was kidnapped. But so anyway, older brother, kind of a strange acting guy. After you find out what he did and everything, and you look at a picture of him, you'll see that he has that same serial killer dark eyes and nothing behind them look. There he is. See, they all have that look, but you wouldn't necessarily notice it until after they get caught. So
the photograph on the right is more recent. The blue shirt is a little more recent, of course.
And so anyway, he was working as a handyman at the entrance to Yosemite Park, and 3 ladies, a mother and a daughter, and I believe a friend of the daughter's, went missing. And this was in, I think, between February and June, or February and July, when all of the murders happened. These 3 go missing, and the car is found burnt. They find 2 of the bodies.
I've got a picture of the burnt car as well. This is the picture of the burnt car.
Mm-hmm. So the police receive a note saying, with a map of where they'll find the 3rd girl that was with them, and it says, "We had fun with this one." We. So anyway, they go and look, and they find her body, and her throat had been slashed. So fast forward a little bit, and you have another. I'm trying to think of what her title was. A naturalist, I guess. They're at the park, and she goes missing. So they go and they speak to all the people at the park, and they basically nobody really knew anything. And as the police were being shown around, they were actually being shown around by the killer, and nothing. They almost completely ruled him out because he had no. As he was showing them around, he threw up no red flags whatsoever. Which, seeing him walk the police through the crime scenes later on, I can see why he would throw off no red flags, because he had zero emotion doing that. It was like he was describing a football game when he was giving the description to the police. But so anyway, what happens in this situation is somebody actually saw his truck near her cabin before she went missing. And so that's and what they found was that she had been decapitated. So apparently what he did was, when she got back to her cabin, he walked up to her truck and asked if she had ever seen any Bigfoot down around her fields or on her cabin. And she said no. And he said, well, you should keep an eye out, because I've seen one and they're real. And so anyway, he apparently, this Bigfoot thing keeps trickling into the story with different people that have met him. But to what extent, I had no idea. I'd seen it mentioned on one of the hour-long, I don't know if it was one of the Dateline mystery ones or one of the, those type of shows that are on ID. So, but I had no idea how bad this guy was absolutely obsessed, and basically he treated Bigfoot as a religion.
Yep.
So yeah, he confessed on the conditions. He was ready to confess. They went, they caught him, they arrested him. He was there at the crime. They matched his tires to the other crime, so he was caught. He knew it, and he agreed to confess if they would provide him with some child porn. And this again was apparently in his mind a normal request. But in the end, where the Bigfoot thing really picks up is this ended up being his defense, in that he was tried separately for the three than he was the other one, because one would be a federal case and the other one wasn't. It would have been state or even county for that matter. I'm not sure. But for the federal case, he was facing the death penalty, and the other one, I think, yeah, he pled guilty to the first one, and they gave him life. The second one, through the trial, they actually used it as a defense, that his obsession, along with other factors, abuse and things like that, but this Bigfoot obsession, even his family said that he would just go on about it all the time. And his lawyer actually did try to use it as a major part of his defense to avoid the death penalty a second time, which didn't work, but was actually part of the defense.
If I might, excuse me, just add just a little bit here. In this little statement that I have up, it said that he worshipped Bigfoot, Sasquatch, as a religious figure. And I think that we see some of that in the Bigfoot community right now. That we see certain groups. Well, I know there's videos on Amazon where they basically pray to Bigfoot and ask for Bigfoot to heal their sick children and things like that. It's very cult-like behavior, in my opinion. But seeing people who worship Bigfoot as a religious figure, as a deity, we see that right now in the Bigfoot community in several groups. There's the mentality that they are a super deity type being, and if you speak out against any of these people in these groups, or even what I'm saying right now, usually they attack you pretty good. But the idea of this guy looking at Bigfoot as a religious type figure was probably more of a newer idea back then than it nowadays. It seems pretty common in the Bigfoot community, really.
Well, I mean, for what the information that would have been available to him, I mean, he claims that he had his sighting. Whether it was in his mind or not is hard to say. He's an extremely sick dude, but
yeah.
It's just interesting that you see this, like you mentioned, you see this behavior in very large groups. When we talk numbers, that the leaders in these groups are very cult-like in their leadership, and the followers are very cult-like in their following.
Mm-hmm.
That's risky in any part of life, but the fact that he was in that deep back then, when there was no amount of databases and stuff like that the way we have instant access to now. Why a religious type thing? Like, why the obsession? Like, we know about the obsession to a point, but not to the obsession to the point of it becomes anything more than what it is. But so, I mean, there wasn't a big community around back then for him to connect with, to come up with this, through them. So this was what obviously was going through this guy's head. I mean, he was sitting there drawing them in the courtroom as his lawyer was presenting a picture to the judge of one that he had previously drawn. He grabbed a hold of the pen and started doodling another one right in the courtroom. So
what if this guy had the access that we have now? What kind of a group could he have established and led, following of Bigfoot people who see it as a god? And like it says in the quote there, he believes that Bigfoot is tied to the meaning of life, and he worshipped it as a religious figure. What could he do nowadays with social media and groups and things like that if he was around today where he could do that?
Back then, he was seen as a little off, but then other people that worked with him said that they wouldn't have guessed at all, other than he was withdrawn, but they wouldn't have noticed at all, and he could be very charismatic. Well, there you've got psychosis and charisma. You've got yourself a cult leader, and we have that in the Bigfoot world now. So imagine what someone that evil could have done. It's unimaginable.
Well, it makes you think about. To me, it makes me think a little bit about the Jim Jones thing.
Yep.
He started out normal, I guess what we would consider normal, but it grew into something abnormal, and people followed him all the way to their deaths, really. So I can see something like that really playing out in the Bigfoot world at any time. You never know. If somebody can tell you, hey, Bigfoot's coming to take us home tonight, but we got to drink this, Kool-Aid and knock our stuff out, and they're going to come and get us and take us back to their homeland or wherever. There's people who would probably do it.
No, there's people that would absolutely do it. I guarantee it. I have seen where you take something and you put it right in front of someone and say, this man is lying to you. This is what happened. And you can show it to them. And you become the lousiest SOB that ever walked on 2 feet because you've just put facts in front of somebody. It's so I to have him as a that type of leader in the Bigfoot community today with all the information and all the I mean, I highly doubt that those first three women were his first victims. How many serial killers start off at three?
Sure. Right.
So he swears that it's only ever been those four, but I highly doubt that. Most people highly doubt that because you typically they don't start off with three; they work their way up.
Let me read this statement I have here. It says, Carrie Stainer is incarcerated at the San Quentin State Prison, who remains on death row as of July 2021, but there have been 0 executions in the state of California since 2006 court ruling about capital punishment. Thus, no execution date has been set for Carey. He is still alive, and he is now 60 years old.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. He was sentenced to death, but with whatever the it's California, so whatever the law is now with capital punishment, I don't know, but I mean, but like I said, look at his eyes, and you can even see it in the footage that I've seen when he was younger. He's there, but not there.
Wait till you see this story I'm fixing to do. You want to talk about some strange eyeballs? Let me take this off the screen. Go ahead and continue talking about that if you want to, Leo, and I'll be.
Well, that's basically it. But I mean, the reason why I wanted to do that one when we were each choosing one, it was that Bigfoot connection. I just didn't know it was that much of a connection. I had no idea it was part of his defense. I knew he was a nut and a Bigfoot nut and stuff like that, but I didn't know to what degree.
All right, let me see what I got here now. This is probably a pretty good one to start off with here. Let me get this picture up. We're talking about having those crazy eyes.
Oh no!
This guy has got crazy eyes,
and because of that, I think I know exactly who it's going to be.
Before I get started, let me read you a little bit about the guy. The guy's last name is Hilton, Hilton. He was known as the National Forest Killer, and he is notorious for committing a series of murders in wilderness areas involving hikers. He was born November 22nd, 1946 in Atlanta, Georgia. His story is really kind of fascinating in some regards. Let me see if I can find the picture. Well, no, not that one, dude. This one. Here we go. We talk about some wild eyeballs. This story, it's got so many twists in it and so many weird things. I have made some notes, but it's just because there's so much. Okay, Gary Michael Hilton, known as the National Forest Killer. His life, starting out young, was kind of not good. At age 13, Hilton shot his stepfather, Danilo Debag, Debag, that was his real name. He shot him in the stomach. He was mad at his stepfather because he felt like his stepfather had taken his mother away. After he shot his stepfather, he spent a little time in a mental institution, but the stepfather actually lived. He didn't press charges. Excuse me. But his mother, his mother didn't want the boy to live back at home, I guess because she was afraid. So Gary Hilton from my understanding, he went and lived in a foster home until he was 17 years old. When he was 17 years old, he got his GED and he joined the Army. During his Army career, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and admitted to the military hospital. Afterwards, he was honorably discharged. Over the years, he was arrested for petty crimes, drugs, thefts, DUIs. He had a unregistered firearm. They picked him up on that. It is believed that his first victim was Rosanna Miliani, I think is how you say her name. I think I have a picture of her somewhere. Let me see if I can get to it. Let's see here. I may not have a picture of her, but he's a rough one, I'm telling you. That was supposedly his, I think it was his first victim. She had traveled from Miami, Florida to Cherokee, North Carolina on vacation in December 2005. She was 29 years old at the time. She spoke of hiking the Appalachian Trail and spoke to her father that very day. She then went to Bryson City, North Carolina, where she rented a small storage unit. In 2009, a store clerk saw an article about her and remembered selling her a backpack around the time she disappeared. She remembered a man that was with her was approximately in his 60s, and the girl appeared nervous. And Hilton, they draw the actual sketch of the person who they thought might have been she might have been with, and it resembled Hilton. Later on, Hilton admitted to beating her to death. Police have evidence that he used her debit card after she went missing. But the thing is, they never found her body. And a lot of his crimes seem to be motivated over money. He would get these people's debit cards, make them tell him the PIN number, and then he would kill them, which was unfortunate. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit to December the 1st, 2006. Hilton came across 46-year-old Cheryl Dunlap, who was a nurse and a Sunday school teacher. She was reported missing the next day when she didn't arrive at church to teach her Sunday school class. Hilton, again, was caught using her ATM on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Dunlap's body was found in Apalachicola National Forest by hunters. About 2 weeks later, she had been decapitated. In 2008, he murdered Meredith Hope Emerson, 24, in Georgia's Chattahoochee National Forest. I think you're seeing why he got the acronym of National Forest Killer, or the subname of National Forest Killer. He would kill these people in remote areas, in the forest, on hiking trails and things like that.
Well, that and the bedroom eye killer just didn't seem to fit.
Yeah, no, definitely not. He had them's not bedroom eyes, that's for sure. Here's something interesting too. That's his knife there, but here's something kind of interesting. When he would go to the ATMs, he would disguise his face. This here is tape. He put a big tape mask on all over his whole face, and he would go go to the ATMs and take money out. But
so that's just tape on his skin, on his face.
Yeah, he made a tape mask. But he also used this, which looks like a Michael Myers.
It does. It looks like
I think that might be what it is. And he wore it, and would go to the ATMs and get the money.
So, dude, that tapes his. How long before this fool was caught? And how many people was he able to kill?
Oh, we're getting to that. But yeah, it gets even more bizarre, man. On October the 21st, Hilton killed John and Irene Bryant. He was 80 and she was 84. And this was in North Carolina, Pisgah National Forest. Uh, the search party located a woman's body covered with leaves on November the 10th. On February the 3rd, 2008, hunters accidentally discovered a skull in the Natalia National Forest. After calling the deputies, they found a spine and pelvis about 20 yards away. They would later identify the remains as John Bryant. The thing about this, he had taken John, basically hostage, kidnapped him, and beat him and stuff like that till he gave him the PIN number. So then once he did that, he would kill him, and left the body, of course, and would go get the money. But that was the ones that he was actually found guilty of, was killing those. But he's suspected in several other murders that took place along these national forests. One of them was Judy Smith, who was 51-year-old, and it dated all the way back to September 7th in 1997. Several bones and personal items was found in the Pisgah National Forest, scattered near her campground, which this is a place where he'd already killed somebody. Later on, he killed someone later on in the same national forest. Jason Knapp, 20-year-old Clemson University student who disappeared in 1998 at Table Rock State Park, South Carolina. He was declared dead in 2018, but they never did find his body. Michael Scott Lewis, 27, was a fisherman. He was also found decapitated, and they thought maybe that Hilton had killed him as well, but there's a little bit of controversy about that, as some think maybe that his girlfriend had actually killed him because she was later convicted of killing another boyfriend by decapitation. So that one is kind of up in the air on if he killed that one or not. But Hilton was a drifter. He spent a lot of time in the national parks, and it's a place where a lot of people go missing, of course, in the national parks. If we can right now, if we can talk a little bit about the missing 411 stuff. There's some of his victims. I know a lot of people want to automatically go to Bigfoot. That Bigfoot is killing people in the national park, and people go missing in the national parks because of Bigfoot. But tonight we have talked about two people that were killing people that was either Bigfoot related or was in national forest. This guy, several in national forest, and suspected of several more. So a lot of times with these missing stories, it's not necessarily Bigfoot. It's just psycho guys like we've talked about tonight who are preying on, well, like the 80-some-year-old people out hiking who enjoyed the hike and walk. They probably wasn't in a real strenuous area trying to hike at that age. Sometimes they run into the wrong fellow at the right time, and he'll end your trip for you.
Yeah, and people have asked me for years about my opinion on missing 411 and what do I think is happening to all these people. And I said, the main thing, the most evil thing on this planet, people are killing people in national forests, in national parks. People, they're the most evil thing on the planet. So there's where you got to go first before you go jump into any conclusions when it comes to that. But it's so easy to, with national parks, I mean, it can be extremely busy one day, not so busy the next, to stay back out of the way and watch people watch their pattern while they're camping and stuff like that, to do these things. I mean, in a place like that, it just.
And this guy had military training. He had, he had been through the military, So he probably had some survival skills out to live out in the forest like this, anyways.
Well, that's what I mean. And if he wanted to be, just lay down quietly on the ground and observe who was going to be there and what time they're going to be there, if they were regular hikers or whatever, very easily done.
Well, here's those two victims that were 80 and 84. Now, what kind of monster would it take to harm these people of this age out trying to enjoy the golden years of their life, just hiking and enjoying nature? What kind of monster would it take to, just kill them? I just can't fathom that kind of thing.
No, if there are some, and I know everything now has every mental illness has a name and all of that,
Yeah.
but I strongly believe that there are some people. I know for a fact there are some people that are born just rotten.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't put a medical label on it. They're just rotten from the day they were born. So, just pure evil from the day they were born. And you can try to say, well, they can't help it. They're sick. They're that. No, not always. Some people are just plain evil.
Well, there's just a little bit more about this, and this is really bizarre, and it really shows a little bit more about the guy. They, according to the record, he killed his first person when he was 59 years of age. Well, most people, including FBI profilers and things like that, they just don't believe that he waited till he's 59-year-old and started killing people. That he probably has a long list of people he killed, way before that. That maybe as he got older, he got a little less, maybe a little careless or a little braver, and didn't maybe cover his track as well. But here's the odd thing: in 1995, a movie was released entitled Deadly Run. The film was the result of a collaboration between movie producer Samuel Rael, who used to be an attorney, and his former legal client was, guess who? Gary Michael Hilton. The film is about a Georgia man who abducts attractive females and flies them to a secluded cabin. Once there, he releases them into the woods and hunts them and murders them. Gary Michael Hilton was never credited for his work in the movie, but he contributed quite a bit to the final film. For example, Hilton was the one who found one of the film's most important shooting locations. It was a remote cabin outside of Cleveland in the North Georgia mountains. And here's the funny part. It was which is not funny, it's sad, it was a mere 30 miles from where he would later kill 24-year-old Meredith Emerson. So this guy actually made a movie about a serial killer killing people in the forest. And then years later, he's convicted of it. And what got him caught was this Meredith Emerson. She actually fought him off for like 3 days and stayed alive. But he ultimately ended up killing her. But by her fighting him off and stuff like that, they was able to identify him and get a hold of him and finally arrest him. But I thought it was really weird that he had written or helped create a serial killer movie, and nobody thought, hey, maybe we ought to check this guy out.
Well, I suppose it would depend on how he got connected into the whole. How did he get wrapped up in the movie thing to begin with?
Well, his attorney made the movie. He was his attorney. The attorney had evidently represented him in some kind of one of the small crime cases or something.
Well, then one would think that a lawyer would be smart enough to. Where are you getting all these ideas, dude? But started killing at 59.
Nah,
I doubt that very much.
He was sentenced to life in prison in Georgia on January 31st, 2008. Sentenced to the death penalty in Florida on April 21st, 2011, and sentenced to 4 life sentences in North Carolina on April 25th, 2013. In 2018, Hilton unsuccessfully attempted to have his death sentence overturned, citing his defense team was dysfunctional and ineffective. His appeal was denied by both state and federal authorities. Hilton is currently being held in the Florida Department of Corrections. And I looked up, they got a list you can actually, I don't have the website in front of me, where you can look up people who are on death row. And it went all the way up through 2026 of scheduled executions when they was going to carry them out, the day they was going to carry them out. Of course, things can change. Stay of execution, stuff like that happens, but he's not on the list all the way up through 2026 that I seen of. Well, the guy, of course, is much older now. You can, how much longer has he got?
Too long, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. But see, you still got those crazy eyes, man.
It's the eye. You can see it in the eyes every time.
Yep. And right here's some of his charges. If you want to look at that: kidnap, assault, terrorizing, grand theft. He actually used if I remember correctly, he had a white van that he drove around from place to place, and I'd say he probably lived in the van at times. But there's 4 of his victims, but he's suspected in many more. And then we think about stuff like the 411 books and the films and all the stories of people who went missing in national parks. And this guy had been out there, who knows how many years, killing people in national parks. So some of these people that are missing, I know they occasionally find bones of people and things like that, but sometimes they're never found. And in his case, he admitted to killing the one, but they never found her body. So I think sometimes that's what happens to some of these people in the national forest.
Yeah, I don't rule it out that it's on a rare occasion. And I'm going to make more friends tonight by saying it, but I don't. Anyway, yeah, on a rare occasion, it could possibly be some kind of, who knows, paranormal or Sasquatch event. But like I said, the most evil things on this planet are people. So there's your monster in the national parks.
Yeah. Well, if Bigfoot wanted to kill us, he could do it.
That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't need to be done in a sneaky way like that.
Right. And Bigfoot wouldn't have to worry about hiding the body. He would just tear it all to pieces and leave it away.
Pretty much.
It's so. You got people like this guy. You can see he's pretty zoned there. And if I remember correctly, one of the people that was his victim had a dog with him, but he said he couldn't bring himself to kill the dog, so he just let it loose. Becca and I watch a lot of this stuff too, and that part does sound familiar. Yeah. And the white van too. Yeah, he had the white van, classic. Do you remember? See, this is what gets me. This jackass, instead of taping something to his face, decides to go ahead and actually just tape his face. But it worked. I mean, you can't tell who he is. No, it worked. But you know what it looks like to me? You remember the guy back about maybe a year or so ago put on the Bigfoot thing, the Bigfoot suit, and walked through the forest, and his eyes were very just tiny slits. Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like, only it's white. That guy. Now, can you imagine him with those eyes? Do you remember Marshall Applewhite
from the Heaven's Gate cult.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you imagine those two having a staring contest?
Yeah. Well, see, now that's the thing. We was talking about the guy that was obsessed with Bigfoot earlier, Stainer. Uh, he could have easily, in today's time, and we know there's groups that do it now that's got a cult-like following. He could easily done like the Applegate guys.
Mm-hmm.
Only, of course, you would pertain it to Bigfoot. Bigfoot's coming to take us home tonight. As everybody would kill herself. He could easily do something like that.
Yep.
So people need to be careful in these groups, and you think you can pull yourself out, but sometimes you get so deep you can't. A thing like, think about Scientology. There's been very few people that's been able to leave Scientology. Regardless how you feel about it, there's some people who do want to get out of Scientology, and they have a very hard time, and they make their life miserable. The rest of the Scientologists do to try to get them not to talk and things like that. So sometimes people get into these groups, and you get so deep, it's hard for you to get out of them.
And the worst part with Scientology, and it's changed a little over the years, but not so much for Scientology, is they seem to be able to do whatever they want and harass people whatever they want, however they want. And for the most part, they get away with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But see, even when he was younger, his eyes was kind of crazy. Cold, man.
He's going through the motions of being a human being, but that's all.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, they diagnosed him with schizophrenia, and I think he had a attention deficit disorder and several other things. But we know that kind of stuff, people who commit murders, it's not because they got ADHD. That's not what they're saying in the reports, but just that he had a lot of problems. But schizophrenia, you become basically a different person at times.
I had a friend who passed away in 2009 who had schizophrenia, and up until he had we knew that there was something different about him, because what he would do is he would say something to whoever, and then it was like he was whispering it back to himself, and you could see his lips move. So we knew that it was odd that he did that, and we knew that he was a little bit different, but didn't swear, didn't get into any kind of trouble, always very helpful to his parents and everything like that. He got into his teens, later teens, and that's when schizophrenia normally, does show up, or starts to. There's signs of it when there can be signs of it when you're younger. And he had a psychotic break after a breakup, and it was him to look at, but he was staring. He would be staring right through you, but every now and again there'd be a little glimpse of the old him, the real him, there, that would make you want to stick around and try to help him out and stuff. But he was to go and set fires and do all of these things that he just never ever would have considered doing. And then when they got him, after years and years of him going to jail for just crazy things, they got him on the right medication, and he almost came back to his former self. But the thing was, he had to take his medication every single day, and if he didn't, he would turn back into, well, he would be untreated. He would go, his schizophrenia would become more active, and he'd lose touch with reality again. But when he was medicated, you could hardly tell that there was anything wrong other than what we already knew when he was young.
I know people like that maybe you see them of the morning and they're fine. You see them 2 hours later and they're just like they're a different person. It's just like they're a totally different person. I know a couple people that's kind of like that, and whether it's just something in their life that annoys them, like fake Bigfoot stuff, or what. Uh, but they seem like they have a personality change within just a matter of hours. Totally different. Yeah, it's. Uh, how would you like to be hiking in the middle of nowhere and run into that guy? I wouldn't. I mean, for years I never packed any kind of weapon other than a little old pocket knife about that long. Now I pack something to take care of him with, though. And I tell people, and I've told you, when I go to the forest, the gun I take is not, the pistol I take is not for Bigfoot. It's for people like this idiot, and it's for bears or whatever, something like that. It might attack you. It's not my desire to shoot a Bigfoot like some people. I want to shoot a Bigfoot. I ain't interested in shooting a Bigfoot.
Well, to those that are still out there after all these years, saying that they're still going to do it, but still haven't, I say good luck to you, because you're going to need it.
Yeah, Larry.
Oh, yeah, Larry's right on that. Yeah.
Well, the thing about PTSD, that is something that people have after a Bigfoot sighting. A lot of times they're traumatized to the point where they can't sleep or they have nightmares, or so it's not necessarily just war. Other things can cause PTSD.
Any kind of extremely traumatic event can cause PTSD, but it's really the veterans that kind of brought it to the forefront.
About the fireworks and stuff for 4th of July.
Mm.
I know people who have struggled through Vietnam, and they won't talk about the things that went on in Vietnam, and they won't watch war military style TV entertainment programs or anything because they have flashbacks and it makes them have nightmares and things like that. So I wonder how just like fireworks and stuff, I'm sure it affects them, some of them anyways, maybe not all of them. Some people seen more action or seen a lot more tragedy during the war than others. Not to lessen the others, part or anything, but some people seen it up close, and the very violent part of it that no person should really have to see.
And I think the difference with the eyes that Larry's talking about is yes, they have the eyes, but they're also there's something in those eyes that's either hurt or lost or whatever. With these serial killers, in that it doesn't look like hurt. It doesn't look like, it just looks like they're black and there's not a bit of human emotion there.
Yeah. And most of those guys are that suffer PTSD. Usually they're all right. If you can talk to them, and they're really good people most of the time. They just have, at times they have problems, and I understand that. To go through what they went through and what they saw and experienced, it's understandable. So, Rebecca was talking about granddad experienced flashbacks during fireworks. I know one person that fireworks bother them. They don't particularly like them. And then over the last few days, we had a local guy who, I guess he had a flashback or something. I don't know if he got his meds mixed up. And he's a real super nice guy. He's real mild and easy spoken. And he had a gun out shooting. Had to get the police up here, I reckon. And that's just a little bit ways up the road from me. I don't know if maybe the fireworks had something played a part in that or what. But man, it's totally out of character for him. So I don't know what happened there. But as far as I know, he's doing okay now.
Well, that's a good thing. And sometimes people just have if they have any type of issues that, might not be general knowledge, so it doesn't take a lot for people to just snap someday and they'll calm down and they'll be all right the next. But
yeah. Well, fake Bigfoot stuff gets me to snap sometimes. You don't believe me? Watch the first of this video. uh, but
Well,
that's
I can generally look at something like with Mudfoot. I mean, I looked at that as poor guy's got to get himself out of the mud, and I dismiss it. But when you have something like what happened today with the whole with the skull and all that, I'm like, you idiots. We try to tell you that the people that are out there saying they know everything are the ones that know the least, and you don't believe us until something like this happens, and they jump on the it's a Bigfoot skull. Like, these people should know better than that.
yeah, I agree with you, man. It's I don't know. I guess I'm too old and not charismatic enough to get this big giant following, but that's okay. I'm still going to put out what I know. Try to share it if people want to listen to it. Uh,
Man, that's fine if that never if
sure.
I mean if that never happens at all. I, it is what it is. A person doesn't do it for a following. It's but it's nice if you've got the good information for people to be interested in that, rather than all the sensational crap and all of that they spent. If they would spend a quarter of the time on legit research that they spend on the nonsense, we all might learn a little bit of something from that.
Well, the thing is, we all want to feel appreciated in our work that we do, and don't think for one second that Bigfooting is not work. The way I do it is work. I spend hours and hours and hours in the woods and on the computer and writing and filtering through tons of garbage to find the good stuff, or try to find the good stuff. There's a lot of work into it. So anybody who puts in that kind of time, you want to feel appreciated what you do. But sometimes you sure don't feel it. That's for sure. When old Mr. Joe Blow got his drunk cousin to dress up in a Bigfoot suit and run by the car real fast. And he's got 9 million views in 3 days and 52,000 followers, and like, come on, dude. Here I am killing myself and nobody cares.
But it's been like this.
Oh yeah.
Since I got here, so I don't. It's not going to change. But
right, yeah. Well, that's I'm sure. I mean, you talked about this before. I think the things that we have done and shared and created, it'll be better appreciated when we're dead. It's such a sad way to say it, but it's true. That happens a lot of times with material. It's appreciated more when the person's gone. Sad part of life.
Well, and Nancy and I talked about that when we were talking about the book, and I said, at least now it's out there, and for all the people that have said the negative things, I mean, I get what really ticks them off is I get so much more positive than I do negative, but the positive ones are the quiet ones that just private message you rather than say it out in public, right, where other people can see it. I
used to get some of that,
but so there's more positive than negative. But yeah, when you go out to the point where people don't understand how big this becomes a part of your life.
Think about Bigfoot every day, dude. Every day.
Yep. There's not a day that goes by. It doesn't. And so yeah, when you go out and I can't afford to do this. I don't have the health to do it. No, I mean, who really can afford to do it at this point? And neither one of us. We've put in our time, but we keep going and we keep finding a way to fit it in our life and get out there and do it. And then you see something like today, You're like, what? Why do I even still bother? Why am I here? I want away from it. I'm fine with the still going in the woods and that, but as far as this, uh, yeah, every day I shake my head at the same things that I've been shaking my head at for 25 years from people.
And then we go right back out in the woods. I
Yep.
told myself I was going to kind of slow down a little bit, but here I am going every week. I'm right back out there.
Yeah, I know, man. I quit 5 years ago too.
So I just figure now I'm going to do it till I either can't do it anymore or I'm done of life on this earth. Anyways, but that's okay. But it does get frustrating, and sometimes it boils over on me, and that's not really my personality to boil over. But sometimes it happens, and sometimes it's caught on camera, and not a lot you can do about it because I'm not a guy that deletes much. If I put something stupid out, it's just or something unflattering. It's just out there unflattering and stupid. That's just I don't try to do a whole lot of backtracking. And no, I got to clean up my social media. I said something bad. I'm not one of those guys. It's just there. It's there, and maybe my attitude's changed about it, or maybe I don't feel the same way anymore because it's been something I said 10 years ago or whatever. But I don't go back and scrub my accounts and videos, and most of the time, unless there's a copyright issue, or that's about the only time I would do anything like that.
Well, in my up until about 5 years ago, it probably did matter to me a little bit more than what it does now. Because I'll tell you, the reason that I'm still here is because of the people the few people that I do network with. I've got to talk to somebody about it. Because Becca comes with me, Dad has been out with me. So the good people that I've networked with is the only reason why I'm still here, because the community itself I can't stand, and I think 99% of them are crazy. But people say, well, you're part of the community. Nowhere did I ever sign any lease or any agreement that I said that I was part of any community. Just because I talk about Bigfoot does not require approval from anybody else. So people find that I might have a bit of an attitude sometimes. Well, just remember, you're the one that gave me that attitude.
Well, I will say that sometimes the Bigfoot community is not too kind to people. And
you don't say.
I've probably been guilty of it myself, but I try not to. I try to just kind of set the record straight on stuff, and because to me it does nobody any good to believe a falsehood, something that's fake or whatever. It does the advancement of research. It does absolutely no good on that. And I think some of that stuff is actually it's planned. It's put out there to keep everything confused and the water's muddy. And then you got people who've been researching for years and they get frustrated because they can't actually get any results, so they go coming up with these wild claims, and it just makes everything a mess, really.
And that wouldn't happen to people if people paid more attention to the research that you have to do to get results. Those people would feel like they fit right in.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this thing that you have to come up with nonsense like today in order to have a following, and unfortunately, it's true.
Well, we buried a plastic skull one time for a movie, but of course it says it's a reenactment.
You always point it out, though.
It was a real event. It was a real. I found a jaw. Was there a jawbone? There's a jawbone and a skull. Yeah, some skulls and stuff. That's another thing too. That maybe we should talk about that sometime too. About people are under the assumption that there's never been any Bigfoot bones found, and that's just not true. There's been a lot of Bigfoot bones found, but now where are they now is the big question.
That's the problem. But yeah, we definitely should be we're going to have to cover that because that's something that's said constantly.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we're over our time. I feel like, other than me having my rant at the first and getting on to people a little bit because I get frustrated with the Bigfoot community and all the hoaxy stuff. Other than that, we've had a pretty good show.
Yeah, and I don't. When I say things, I don't mean to come off as a jerk. I'm just being honest. I'm not a jerk. I think I'm a very. I try every day to be a good person, and I think I'm a very nice person.
I'm just a jerk.
But I get frustrated too.
You know, I'm just a jerk, but
Oh yeah, yeah. You're a horrible person. But no, people already know that about you. I mean, people know that there's that man for what people might, take a shot here and there and disagree with you, but people generally overall, you're very well liked and respected. Whereas I've got some good video and some good shots, and I got a big mouth. So,
well, I just present what I find. Interpret what I find. I don't try to mislead. I try to be logical. And from my gifting, that I try to rule out everything before I go to Bigfoot. I try to rule out a worm, nightcrawler got the Cheeto before I go.
To the point where it's maddening, man. To the point where it cannot be anything else but Bigfoot. And that's why I was teasing you the other day about the squirrel. Squirrels came in and did that because there's no other explanation. It's either human or it's Bigfoot. Now you find Bigfoot tracks there, no human tracks there, and you still refuse to believe that it's Bigfoot. It's like, well, no, I'm not 100% yet. I'm like, no. Well.
And I had wood knocks. When I was in the forest, and then after I set up the gifting area, I had wood knocks, and then you come back the next time and the toys are gone, everything's gone. There's no wrappers. There's nothing left there. That's what me and my dad was talking about it, because I've been leaving these like little. You get the little half Pringles cans, and once I eat them, I save the cans and I put me some kind of gift in it, usually for Bigfoot or whatever might get it. And me and him was talking about it. I say normally if a bear gets it, he'll just take it a few feet and tear into it and eat it, and it'll leave the rest of it there. But whatever's getting this is taking the whole canister. There's no evidence, and I scout around in the area. It's an area that I frequent often, and it's an area that I move around. I've been all over it, and you never find no remnants of the can or anything like that. So whatever's getting it's taking the whole can, and they've not brought the can back. So I keep putting a new can out when I go if I got one, and I've had one for the last several months. Probably the last 2 months. Every time I go, I've been putting out a new can with something in it. They seem to like the Cracker Jacks, whatever took it. So, not counting all the toys and balls and all that kind of stuff that's been missing. So, I don't know. Hopefully, it'll progress further and I'll learn more and I can share more. I hate to share a lot of gifting stuff because I don't want to tell you Bigfoot took this when it's possibly a raccoon that took it, But
yeah, that's the thing though, is we're not morons. We know that happens. So I mean, I don't think anybody is going to accuse us of saying that we know for sure that this one item was taken by Bigfoot because. But I mean, we can tell what happened and what was placed there and what was gone, what wasn't gone, and all that. And that's I don't think either one of us are known in particular for, bumping our heads, jumping to conclusions. No, we do rule everything out that we can possibly rule out.
Well, that's just like the marbles. I've been leaving the marbles in a certain area, and then it'd be unusual for me that there's no way the wind or rain or anything like that would blow the marbles off. So then you come in and they're gone. Well, you leave another one there. You come in the next week, it's gone. It's not on the ground or whatever. It's just interesting, and I'm interested to see where it goes. I definitely think there's something going on that is not a normal animal, maybe like a bear, squirrel, or there's something definitely going on. There's too many animals missing that has to be taken by something that's pretty intelligent.
And that's what drives me nuts. I know how well you're doing. I know how well the progress is coming along, because I said that they're going to move. There's some things they're not going to take, but they're going to move them around,
They've done
and
that.
they're going to see how you respond to that and what happened. But no, won't take my word for it.
Well, I've been at this for a long time, and I've had a few visuals, and I've found you couldn't put all the tracks I found in this room I'm in. But I would like to have, of course, something a little more confirming. And the reason I got into Bigfoot was to settle my own mind that whether or not Bigfoot was real. That was kind of my whole deal, I guess, when I first really got into it. And I was pretty quickly able to satisfy, yeah, it's Bigfoot's a real deal. It's really out there. Now let's find out more about it. And so that's kind of where I went from there. And I'm still learning more about it.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, what we know, regardless of what people claim they know, what we know, because we can't all work together, because we can't get along. Even a third of us can't get along. So, so what we know could fit in a thimble, compared to what needs to, what could be known.
Sure, but a lot of times egos get in the way. Everybody wants to be the lead dog, and then that's fine if you want to be the lead dog. But man, if you're going to be the lead dog, you better know your stuff. You better not be fooled by some kind of a cheapo fake gorilla skull somebody threw down in the mud and pulled out of it and said, "Oh, look what I found." You better not be fooled by something like that if you're going to be the lead dog. And if you can't do that, you better get out of the way and let somebody knows what to do and lead. That's just how I feel about it. So,
well said.
That's these people claim they got a lot of this experience and they getting fooled by old stupid plastic gorilla skull. Man, you just don't know what you're doing. So.
Well, we've been trying to preach that now for how long, that the people you're following don't know what they're doing, or they have no idea what they're talking about.
You try to be nice about it and say, man, just be careful who you follow, because everybody don't know what they're doing. And the majority of them don't really go out in the woods at all, other than a photo op, maybe twice a year or something. So be careful who you're throwing your support behind, because they don't know what they're doing, for one. And second of all, they're going to tell you stuff that's not true. And third of all, what they do tell you true, they're probably getting from people like me and Leo.
I know of several people that absolutely hated it when I started to draw a line between the general term of Bigfoot and Sasquatch people.
Mm-hmm.
Under whose authority do you do this? And well, whose authority do I need? I'll call them flying pink donkeys if I want to. That's not your concern.
Who's the head of the council?
Well, I know who thinks he is, but anyway.
Yeah.
No, it's just the whole thing is absolutely ridiculous, and the Bigfoot community has nobody but to blame but themselves when people laugh at them.
Oh yeah, it's no wonder the subject is not taken very seriously, because the crazy story is what's hitting the news. The crazy story is what's going viral. The guy just busted his hump for 15 miles through the forest and found a weird stick structure built in the middle of nowhere and a bunch of these big giant tracks. That guy, he ain't gonna see the light of day. It's like that stupid commercial that's gonna get tens and tens of views. That's kind of how it works in the Bigfoot world. The paranormal world, same way.
Yeah, I've heard that the UFO and paranormal world is just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah. Well, at least the government now has admitted that UFOs are real, if you can believe the government, and that's very questionable if you can believe what the government tells you. If they're telling you that it's UFOs, it's probably something else, even though there are real UFOs. What they're showing is probably not real UFOs. It's probably something they got.
Chances are.
We live in a world where we can't trust our government. I had a person tell me one time, I think she was a school teacher, that if you can't trust your government, who can you trust?
Anybody else but them?
I said, man, that's a very person you shouldn't trust is your government. Well, Leo, I guess we'd better wrap it up. I've had a good time. I've enjoyed it. You know, some of the things that I've been facing the last few days for sure. My wife is sick right now. I'm hoping I don't get sick. I hope my son don't get sick or any of my parents or anything like that. But I've had a lot on me the last little bit, so I've enjoyed the show, and I got to blow off a little bit of steam, and no ill intent toward anyone, just frustration, and sometimes you have to vent frustration, and I did.
It's the healthy thing to do.
It's the healthy. It's either that or kill people, and I don't want to kill people. It's just not in me. But yeah, it's I've enjoyed the show, and I've enjoyed learning about the serial killers that are tied to possible multiple missing persons and deaths through the whole Appalachian Trail and various other places. It's interesting. The mind of a serial killer is something that we probably will never fully understand because it's just too complex for us. We don't think that way. That's why I find when they do interviews with actual serial killers, I find it fascinating because even the best way they can guard yourself, you learn something new. Mm-hmm. And I like to learn new things.
They're frightening, but an interesting group. I will say that.
Yeah, for sure. But guys, I guess we'll close it down for tonight. We thank everybody that showed up in the chat room. We hope you enjoyed the show. We thank you for your support. If you get a chance, please subscribe to the channel. If you get even the extra chance, go watch our films. That's on Tubi and Amazon and a whole bunch of other places. Buy Leo's book, buy my book. Support us, help us. We're just two guys trying to do what we know and be honest and truthful and give you good information and not give you phony baloney just to get on TV or whatever. Whatever people like to do to get Bigfoot famous. I've been doing it a long time. Leo's been doing it a long time. We're probably about as famous as we're ever going to get, Leo. So now all we got is information to share, and we think that our information that we share is very good if we can get people to tune in and listen and follow us and read our stories and things like that. And those that do, we appreciate your support, and we hope we have done enough to continue getting your support. So, Leo, with that, I guess we can tell everybody good night and goodbye.
All right, buddy.
Hey,
thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a good night.
Say goodbye, Leo.
Goodbye, Leo. Say goodbye, Tom.
Goodbye, Tom. And hopefully, maybe no bad luck, we can do a show next week. It's just according to how things go.
Well, we'll give it a shot anyway.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Thank you all. Leo, be good, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow. No bad luck.
All right.
And Rebecca, too. Thanks, Rebecca, for taking care of the chat and things like that for us. It's very helpful. All right, guys, we appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, and follow us. Support us any way you can. We appreciate it. We're just good old country type folk, and we need your support and need your help to know that we're doing a good job for you and that we are providing valuable information. You guys be good, stay safe, and I love you and God loves you.